Hello everyone, and welcome to my Monster Hunter World review of the Behemoth gameplay reveal. The first thing I'm going to start out with is they had several pictures that gave a lot of information about fighting the Behemoth, so I'm going to go out of order, and I'm actually going to talk about all the information that they gave away. They gave away some of the information at the beginning, then they gave away some of the information at the end. Let's go ahead and talk about all of it in the beginning, and then we'll move on to talking about the gameplay, okay? So starting with the first picture, it says the name of the event is going to be a special assignment, and it's going to be called He Taketh It With His Eyes. It's kind of a funny name, in my opinion. Then it says the main objective, kill the Behemoth. Conditions, you have to be Hunter rank 18 or higher, time limit of 35 minutes. They don't talk about how many lives you get, but I can tell you in the fight at least 2 people died, so you get more than 2. Then it says at the bottom of the picture, the 4th title update will always be available. So I'm guessing it's not going to be like Kulve Taroth where it's constantly rotating, and I think that's a good thing. I think one of the problems with the Kulve Taroth siege is over time it's going to be harder and harder to get big teams together to actually pull that off, and people have to be aware that she's available. So just having this available all the time is probably going to be a good thing. On this card, it says, team together to fight the Behemoth. There are some special rules for the quest that feature the Behemoth. Multiplayer is highly recommended. Drawing enmity is a good thing. Raise enmity by attacking the head, and watch out for comets. This next picture talks a little bit about the Behemoth's most powerful move. It's called the Ecliptic Meteor. And we'll have a picture of that. And we'll have footage of that, and I'll talk a little bit about it when we get there. But basically it says, Ecliptic Meteor's impact zone is gigantic. Taking the impact directly results in an instant fate, running away is not an option, and Farcasters cannot be used while Ecliptic Meteor is being summoned. Okay, so like I said, we'll take a look at that, and you'll get an idea of it once we reach it. I'll point it out. Okay, so it's at the bottom. Instead, you must use falling comets to shield yourself from the blast. Alright, and the last card, this is a big one, it's real wordy. Let's go over it. It says, preparing for the update. Every party member will have a role to play. So I'm thinking they kind of wanted to structure it like a true RPG, which makes sense because Final Fantasy is traditionally an RPG. It says you'll need someone to focus on chipping away at the Behemoth's health, someone to draw the Behemoth's attacks by gaining enmity with defense-oriented weapons, use recovery items to help those who gathered the Behemoth's enmity. The wide range skill is highly recommended for this battle. Recommended weapons are water element weapons, weapons that cause abnormal status like paralysis, and weapons that have health regen augmentations. Now what's interesting about that is it recommends water elements and paralysis. I have a suspicion that the new Behemoth weapons probably either deal good water damage or good paralysis. That's generally what they do with the weapons in Monster Hunter World. They're usually designed to be effective against the monster that you farmed the parts from. That's not always true, but sometimes, or at least commonly, it is. So, and it wouldn't be surprising to have the Behemoth's weapons be good with water. So we don't really have that in this game right now. I mean, we have there's a few good weapons that are good at water, but it's not a really popular element type, so it would be interesting to see that. Recommended skills are Guts, Health Boost, and Wide Range. I'm assuming the reason why Guts is useful here is because you're going to be able to survive one of the Ecliptic Meteors. That's my guess. They didn't mention the Temporal Mantle though, so I'm kind of curious if the Temporal Mantle is actually able to dodge the Ecliptic Meteor. We'll have to find out when he comes out. Oh, and by the way, he's coming out on August 2nd. At the bottom of the screen it says, make sure to prep your armor, skills, and items before the fight. That's true all the time, guys. Alright, so at the beginning of the fight, some of the fun things you notice is that it looks like the font and the text are set up to kind of remind you more about playing Final Fantasy. Also, you notice that the fight begins in the middle of the Elder's Recess, where there's 2 falling boulders, so do not miss out on the opportunity to drop both of those boulders on top of the Behemoth. The next thing I want to talk about is drawing the Behemoth's aggro. What they said, building enmity. basically, if you hit him in the head enough, he appears to aggro to you if you do this, and you can see that this is true because a red beam will connect from the Behemoth's head to your body, right? And in that case, you either need to run around like a crazy madman, or if you have a shield, you can just try to guard all of his attacks. So this is really interesting because if you like to play with lances or with gun lances, you finally have a reason to consider using like the guard skill, maybe the guard up skill, and just generally skills that allow you to become super tanky, right? Which in the past we've ignored those with the lances and the gun lances to just do as much damage as possible. But if you're actually trying to tank the Behemoth, I think that could be a lot of fun and maybe really important for being able to kill him quickly. In this next scene, I wanted to show you that you can actually cut the Behemoth's tail off, which is something they focused on pretty early on. They just went right for his tail. So yeah, here you can see his tail coming off. This scene shows you the ecliptic meteor. He stands on his hind legs. The ground glows a big red color, and you have to run behind one of the rocks that he previously called into the fight. So as soon as you see that, you better locate one of those rocks and run behind it. Another thing I noticed is that there appears to be those wind pressure tornadoes, once again, just like with Kushala Daora. Those are super annoying. You know, it's just a side note. I thought I'd point it out. I also noticed in this scene that you can mount the Behemoth, which means you can have somebody knock the Behemoth over, which I think would be really important and useful because he's such a tall monster that if you want to be able to get a KO with the hammer, you definitely want to be able to knock him over and incapacitate him in any way that you can. In fact, they talk about being able to paralyze him, or they talk about being able to give him ailments, and I really think that being able to paralyze him and put him to sleep allows the person who wants to control the monster gain aggro from the Behemoth. You know, it allows them to do that because he stands still for a while. In this scene, it's really interesting. The hammer player is jumping through the air when he gets bitten by Behemoth, and he is then afflicted with the bleed status. In this scene, you can see that the Behemoth can be put to sleep, and they are sleep bombing him. So if somebody on your team is going to put the Behemoth to sleep, be sure you're not waking him up with the useless damage. Be sure everyone's taking advantage of that and putting barrels down at his head. The Behemoth has two horns, right? And these can actually be broken off, as we can see in another scene. The horns are broken. So yeah, it's probably really valuable to be able to get those barrels off on him because he's so tall. I mean, you don't get a lot of opportunities to get really high damage on his face. At least if you're just letting the lance player do all the face damage, I think it can be difficult to break the horns. So be sure you sleep bomb him. For those of you who are putting him to sleep, try assigning a shout out to your radial menu so that you can tell your team very quickly when you're putting him to sleep. That's a trick that I use all the time. Yeah, just do that and it'll help your team know to stop attacking. Alright, and the last thing that I noticed at the end of the fight is just that they carved the Behemoth like any other monster. So it looks like you're probably going to have a full set of armor to build. You notice that new armor that they've already revealed it. The new armor, they also revealed the new insect glaive. So we haven't seen any other weapons though, and I'm assuming there's a whole suite of weapons to go through. That's what I'm hoping for. And yeah, that armor looks really cool, though we have to find out what skills are on it, right? I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the new armor possibly has good artillery on it, or maybe has the capacity skill boost on it, because right now there aren't very many good armors that have those two skills, and both of those skills are very valuable, especially for the gun lance. And I feel like now would be a great time for Capcom to kind of include some better armor for the gun lance, because it feels like it's really been ignored. And maybe like the insect glaive as well. I don't know a whole lot about the insect glaives, but yeah, they've put a lot of focus on the insect glaive in the trailers and the reveals, so maybe that's a good sign that they're going to be giving it good armor. Alright, and that's everything I have to say about the Behemoth. I didn't want to stretch this video out. I just wanted to get you guys all the information that I thought was relevant in a short period of time. You guys are welcome to discuss anything that I missed or overlooked, or just the little details that you enjoyed when you saw the gameplay reveal. And yeah, so I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Really? Oh my gosh, you guys! I just want to thank y'all so much!